Let's kick class off tonight. What did we learn yesterday? Have we recovered from the brain frying that we gave everyone?
I have not recovered.
Great. So great time to start a brand new project and do it all over again is what I'm hearing.
And Max, I have it's not related to class per se, but I have a question about the computer and the swap thing.
Okay.
Go for it. Let me just, I guess, share my screen and open it up in terminal desktop 2 terminal. Go back to desktop 1 then. And H top, no capitals. HTOP. So my computer's feels like it's been getting really hot.
Okay.
And not just, because it's hot outside. And then I'm looking at this swap thing and it's all the way, it's really high.
Swap isn't anything to really worry about. Swap is when your computer uses hard disk space instead of RAM. In order for applications that aren't quite as intensive. What you should be more concerned about is that this message contents macOS messages is hanging up at the top. And even though it's not using a ton of RAM, it is using a ton of CPU usage. I'm guessing that is what is making all of this go nuts and all of this go nuts up here. Can you hit F6, which should change the sort by? You might need function F6. What I'm confused about is you should have a CPU percentage column, and I'm not sure why you don't have that.
Yeah. I hit function F6. There we go. Percent memory.
It's not the memory that I'm worried about. It's your CPU.
Okay.
But what's kind of weird is you should have, let me function F6 myself. You should have a percent CPU and you don't.
Okay.
Which is what's kind of confusing me.
I'll take a look at it under break because I don't want to take up too much class time with it.
Yeah, basically what I think is happening is your messages are syncing in the background, and that's what's causing some problems. Do you have your messages app running?
I do. I believe, yes. Let me quit it now. All right, I quit it. Yeah.
And go back to your HTOP and see if that made the messages app disappear from the top.
It did. Yeah, it did.
Okay, now look at your CPU up at the top. Do the numbered bars 0 through 7 or 8? Do they look like they have calmed down?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think your messages app was syncing something in the background, and that's what was causing your computer to run hot.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Max.
No problem. Okay, back to what we learned yesterday. What did we do yesterday?
Serialize.
Sequelize. What did we do with sequelize? Someone give me a summary of what they think sequelize is.
If you use it to make database queries without directly writing the SQL.
You got it. Yep. And what kind of files do we have to create in order for it to know what is in the database, what the structure of the database is? We use a init was for kind of getting the database set up, but what kind of message did we use? What kind of file did we use in message.js? That was the model. So we had to create message.js, which was a model for the database so that Sequelize knew what columns were in the database. So then once we had our model created and we did all of our database setup, we were able to use .findAll and .create and .update and .save and all of those functions in order to interact with the database without having to write SQL directly. Did we have any questions about all the code we did yesterday? Anything lingering, any concepts that you've heard me use, anything in the video that you went back through and you're like, still not getting it? Okay, kind of feeling good about it, feeling like we just want a little bit more practice with it.
You could make another couple of demonstrations with it.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch tonight. We're going to get our blog project set up. We're going to use Sequelize. We're going to use Express. We're going to use React. We're going to get more practice with state. Our main goal tonight is to get our login component working. So that's what we are going to focus on is securely storing passwords in the database. We're still going to do a Sequelize setup. We're still going to get our Express up and running. We are going to focus on getting a login component working, getting a little practice with hashing, and then start thinking through our blog project of what links do we need, how does that show up, all of that stuff going on there. All right, so to get started on that, we are going to dive right on in. So I am going to open up my code folder. I'm going to get you guys out of the way here so we're set up properly. We're going to, in our week 17, we are going to create a day 4 folder. In our day 4, we are going to go to our terminal. And once we are in our terminal, we are going to CD to our desktop. Once we have CD to our desktop, we're going to CD into the My Code folder. Once we are in My Code, we are going to CD into our week 17 folder. And once we're in our week 17, we're going to CD into our day 4 folder. And to make sure I've made it all the way down there, I'm going to run a PWD. That PWD is going to show us that we've made it down into day 4. And now there are 2 folders that we need to create in here. The first one is going to be our front end. Our front end is all going to be in React. So we are going to npx create React app. And we are going to create our React app called blog-frontend and hit enter. It's going to take a minute to get started and get our React app installed. Once we get, oh, fake out. Okay, once we get to this point and our React app is set up and we've got a folder for it, instead of firing it up directly, we're also going to get our backend set up. So we're going to mkdir our blog-backend. And once we've got our backend directory created, we're going to CD into our blog backend. And we are npm initting-y. Once we have npm initted-y, there are 4 packages that I know we're going to need right off the bat. So we're going to npm install express, body parser, cores, and Sequelize. I think we're also going to need PG. So we're going to install all of those. I will copy and paste that command into the live stream in case you need it.
Can you make your terminal bigger, because I was following and then it's, yeah, it's okay.
And once we have created all of that, we are actually done in the terminal. So our commands, we CD'd down all the way down into the day 4 folder. We then ran our npx create React app blog front end. Once we had our front end created, we then made a directory all the way down here for our back end. Then we cd'd into our back end, and then we npm init-y. Once we npm init-y, we then went down and we installed Express, Body Parser, Cores, Sequelize, and PG to get all of those out of the way.
And npm init, that just gets Node Package Manager running?
No, that creates our package.json file for us so that we can install other packages. Init is basically initializing our npm project for the backend.
Okay. Thank you.
So you can actually see it says wrote to package.json, and it has all of this stuff in it. Init is just creating our package.json file for us so that when we install other packages, it knows where to go.
Hey, Max, can you do me a favor and scroll back up in your terminal?
Where's your aquarium? I don't have an aquarium.
Yeah, right there. Thank you.
Christy, do you still have a question, or did the scrolling help?
Yeah, but now you scrolled away. I need to see from Happy Hacking.
Okay, so it's important to take a step back here and not look at this as what commands did Max run. Think about this as what steps are we trying to do? We're trying to cd down into the right folder. We're then trying to create a React app called blog-frontend. Then we're making a backend folder. And once we've got the backend folder created, we are trying to npm init in it so that it's got a package.json. And then we are installing Express, Cores, Body Parser, Sequelize, and PG. So hopefully you're taking a step back, even though it's not on my screen, and trying to work through those steps, right? Thinking about this as what are we trying to achieve, not thinking about it as what did Max run to do that. With that said, I will scroll down so you can see the commands, but it is important to keep those steps in your head, not just, oh, he ran npm init, so I need to run npm init, but looking at npm init and thinking, oh, we're in the backend folder, we need to create our package.json file so we can npm install packages down here. If we install packages down here and we don't have our package.json created, then there's no place to save what we are installing. So I will put these notes in the live stream of we cd'd down to our project folder. We then npx, then we create React app for front end. Then we make our backend folder. We then npm init and install Express, Body Parser, Cores, Sequelize, PG. So just sent the steps. Now, we need to get to the point, because when you start working at a job, they're not going to say, go watch this video of how I did it and go do it yourself. So we need to make sure that when we look at the steps in the live stream channel, we know how to execute every one of those steps and that we're familiar with the commands. If you look at any of those commands and you are not familiar with it, you don't know how to do it, that is when we stop and take a step back and say, there are very few new concepts coming this way, so I need to make sure that I understand all of the steps that Max just put in there and know what those exact commands are in order to make that happen. This is less about being able to follow along at this point and more about understanding that we need that level of comprehension. So after all of that is done, what we should be able to do is close out of the terminal. We should be able to open up our blog backend in VS Code and put that over to the side. We should then be able to take our blog front end, Pop that open, put that over to the side. In our VS Code, we're going to right click on the package, open an integrated terminal, and npm run start. And that is going to pop open localhost 3000 with our spinning React logo. And then we need to do some setup in our server.js. But let's pause here before we get our backend running and make sure that everyone is caught up to this point.
My front end doesn't say blog dash front end. Did I do something wrong?
What does it say?
It just says front end.
That's fine. You just called it front end instead of blog front end. That's fine. You
I
can use that.
rename it.
You can rename it if you want. Yeah, that's fine.
Is it npx run start or npx start?
npm run start.
npm.
Yep. npx we only use for create React app and nodemon because we're executing those commands. Nodemon, we're executing nodemon, and same for npx, we are executing create React app. We use npm to run whatever is in our package.json file under the start command right here. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen, but npm run start is doing that in package.json.
Are we doing that in the front and back end?
No, the back end we don't have set up yet. We're only getting the front end running at this point.
Oh, I did it in the wrong one. I got an error. Ooh.
Me too.
Yeah, sorry, we
Me
don't have
too.
we don't have back end set
I
up.
was like, I broke it.
If you- sorry, I didn't want to go too far. So if you've got your front end working, go ahead and vote.
Okay.
Glad we
Like,
remembered it.
I commands.
I wanted to give you guys a break tonight and not do a gazillion steps and feel like you were rushing to catch up, because the back end itself is something that deserves its own time to go through, make sure we understand the setup and all of that stuff. So we got 7 people in, let's say 8. Okay, let's say 9 is our threshold tonight. So let's see if we can get 9 people caught up. If you have any questions, come off mute, let us know.
You said we were doing the back end and the front end.
Just the front end. If you have gotten to the point where you've got a spinning React logo in your browser, you are all caught up. Back end, we have not started yet, just because I want to make sure that everyone's following with what we're doing.
So when we get into the folder in VS Code, we're opening front end and then going to package.json and then
Opening
it
the
in
terminal and doing an
Yeah.
npm run start.
Okay.
Just on the front end.
Just on the
Right.
front end. We have not touched the back end. Though you can open it, the folder, the backend folder in your VS Code, but you do not need to do anything in the terminal there yet. Hopefully I was quick enough on the mute button there on that sneeze.
Yeah, you were.
No one needs a high quality mic to hear a sneeze. Okay, 9 votes in, so we are going to keep on trucking here. Now we've got to get our back end set up. So we are, of course, going to share our screen. Over here in the plus, we are going to create a new file called server.js. in our server.js, we need to do some basic setup. First things first, we need to get access to express. So we do a const express equals require express. We then say, hey, we need to create our server. So we are going to, am I sharing the wrong screen?
No,
No.
that was it.
Okay. I will start a live share in 1 second. So our const server is going to be our express. We then know we are going to use our cores because we are building this as an API. So we tell our server to use cores. And then we also know we're going to be sending some front end or some JSON back and forth. So we're going to say const body parser equals require body parser. Whenever we require, we know we are either pulling in, we're importing from either NPM or our own file. We're going to tell our server to use body parser, and the body type is going to be JSON. We are then going to say server get at the root, and that's going to get a rec and a res, and we're going to res.send hello world. And then we need to tell our server to listen on 3001. And when you are listening, console log out a server running. After we do all of that freaking work, we're going to go to our package.json file. And under the script section, we are going to say, hey, the way we start this server is by running npx node mon server.js. So let me move this over. Let me split the screen so you can see both of them. I am going to start live shares for the front end and the back end. Sorry, give me 1 second so I can get this started. Move this up, put this in here. And last step that we're going to do is right click on server.js, open an integrated terminal, run our npm run start, and we should get a server running right here. And we know the server is running because if we go to Chrome and go to localhost 3001, we get our hello world. So let you guys catch up there. If you would like to open the live shares, those are now posted both in Zoom and in Slack. It would help if I pulled, and we're gonna take a breather there. Really would like to go make another cup of tea, but I'm not going to tempt fate quite yet. Yes, go ahead.
So when I first opened it, I had my back end and my front end on one. So I separated it. So I went back and closed it and reopened it. But for my back end, I don't see anything in there.
Did you run npm init-y in the right folder?
I don't know. I don't think I did then.
So when you run your npm init-y, it's going to create a package.json file for you. And once you've got that package.json file, you can npm install Express, body parser, cores, PG, and Sequelize.
But I thought we did that on the front end.
Nope.
Well, when I did it, when I was doing it, I thought that's what I did in my terminal. Wait a minute. Let me see.
npx, Nicole, is what you put before create React app in the terminal.
So I did make directory blog dash backend.
Did you CD into it?
Yep, I CD'd into blog backend.
Then did you run npm init-y?
Yes.
Make a liar out of me. Go ahead, share your screen.
I'm sure it's something I did. I'm positive, but I don't see right here, I did.
You sure did. But
but
then you
then-
spelled sequelize wrong.
Ah, so that's where it is.
Well, that's part of the problem. So just click in your terminal and hit
Uh-huh.
the up command, but don't hit enter or the up arrow. And then just use the arrow cursors to get your cursor over to that. Sequelize, not sequelize.
I had this issue yesterday.
Oh, it's still spelled wrong.
Really? Oh,
You put in the E, but didn't take out the A. Kurt, you use your arrows. Too far. Nope.
E.
Right
Good.
arrow,
Oh my God.
delete,
Delete.
E,
Ooh.
enter. Okay, now you've got your blog backend set up. So you can close your terminal. You're done here.
Oh, wait, you guys, spaces are there. Okay.
Okay,
So should
now
I close my back
you've got
end
your
and-
front end opening. Now you should open a new window and open your back end.
Yeah, I have this. So should I close this and reopen it?
Yeah, because you open chat backend, not blog backend.
Oh, I sure did. I don't know what's that about. All right. So,
New window first. Yep, you got it.
open.
Now you need to create your server.js file.
What is that? MPX.
No, just new file from VS Code.
This server.js.
Yep. No. Create a new file in VS Code.
Oh. Wow. And that don't do anything here? On this one?
On that one, you need to add the start command to your scripts in package.json.
Not npm run start, right?
You need to get your server and your package.json set up before you can do that.
So it's npxi something? No?
When you're falling behind, instead of trying to catch up, it would be better to just like quick grab a notebook and jot down the steps that we're doing. So what we did is we went to package.json,
Mm-hmm.
and in package.json, just regularly open package.json.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute.
Okay, under scripts, you have to put a comma on the last line of test. Enter. Quote, start. And now we need to tell it how to start the server. So we're going to do a colon, quotes, npx nodemon server.js. Okay, save. We're done with package.json for now. You can close out of that. Now you need to get your server.js to look like my server.js. And then you will be all caught up and we'll be able to run npm run start on your backend.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, go ahead.
Sorry, take Steph's question first. I think I fixed it.
Stephanie, go ahead.
After let me share. I caught up typing and then I got down here and I wrote npm run start and got this. Was I not supposed to do that?
You're so close. You just forgot the quotes around express on line 1. Then the other thing I see you missing is on line 3 in that require. You forgot to tell it that you're requiring in the cores package. So quotes, CORS. Save. And scroll down in your terminal for me. Server.us is not a command, not a function. On line 7.
Oh,
What did I?
Good to go. You're caught up.
thank you.
Nicole, you're up. Okay, so you're in your front end, so you can npm run start to get this started.
Do you see this in the way?
No,
Okay, I'm sorry. I see something in the way. Okay,
npm run start to get your front end started.
I did that already, I think.
Then show me the terminal where you've done that. Okay. Do you want it in that terminal or do you want it in VS Code?
Well, I just went to VS Code and opened it, so maybe I should do it this way.
Okay, if you start it there, close the other terminal first because you're going to have port issues. Terminate, hit end there.
Oh, shit.
Control C. npm run start. Enter. Okay, now you're good there. Now open a new window and open your backend folder.
I didn't make one yet.
Okay. So you need to catch up on the steps to make the folder. All of those steps are in the live stream.
Got it.
Doug, you're up.
In the a body parser.
Yes.
What is that? That parses the incoming requests body?
Correct.
What is that?
It's converting the JSON as a string into a body as an object.
Okay, it comes in as JSON and body parser converts it to an object.
You got it.
Thank you.
As long as the headers say that application JSON is the content type, it will use that content type, know that it's JSON coming in, and parse the incoming body string out for us into a JavaScript object. Larry, you're up.
Yeah, so it's not connecting to localhost 3001.
Take me to your back end.
Do you see it?
You're missing the parentheses after the JSON in line 6. So body parser.json is a function that we need to call, just like cores.
Thank you.
That was a good one. You almost stumped me.
All right, it works.
All right, we got 7 votes in. We had 9 last time. Let's see if we can get to 8.
I'll be 8.
All right. Does anyone need help? More important. Oh, go ahead, Chess.
One second. Okay. So I'm getting all of these errors.
Okay, so you're really close. Go to your package.json. And we added one line in there. So after the scripts, on line 7, put a comma at the end of that. End of line 7.
Oh, it's line 7. 1 second, I gotta move this. Okay.
Mhm. Comma, enter, quote, start. Basically, we need to tell NPM how we're going to start this. So after the quotes, you can put a colon and opening quotes. Colon first, not curly braces. So delete out the curly braces. You want a colon. Yep, okay. Nope, no, you had it. And then quotes. And you're gonna say npx nodemon server.js. Now save that and try your npm run start again in the terminal. You had everything going good in the server.js. The other problem is that you've got server spelled wrong in your file name. And so we can't find
Oh my
sever.
God. I didn't even see that.
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes I can find the issue before the computer can.
Okay.
All right, now try your npm run start. Okay, now you've got a module not found. So if you scroll up there, it's going to tell you that it can't find Express. That's because you missed the npm install step. So what you need to do is Control-C. And npm install, and then with spaces in between, Express, body parser, core, sequelize, and PG, all of which is in the Slack channel.
Okay.
And once you get that in, your server.js look good. So after that install goes through, you should be able to do your npm run start and not run into any problems. Up a little bit, right above there. Oh, that list works too.
Yeah.
Except I said body parse instead of body parser. And
Oh, I
then
caught that earlier too. I didn't know if you did that on purpose or what. So
fixed. But yeah, you want your Express, body parser, core, sequelize, and PG with just a space in between them, no comma, and then your server should start up fine.
Express body parser. It was Express body parser. Was it
Don't
cores
forget
also?
the dash between body and parser. And then cores, sequelize, and PG. Yep, you got it. Enter. And that's going to take a hot minute, and then you can npm run start, and I believe you will be good to go after that. Beautiful. Good to
Okay.
go.
Thank you.
Okay. One last setup step we need to do with sequelize, and then we will be golden. So what you can do is you can pull up your code from yesterday, the back end. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
I'm still behind.
Okay. Do you want to go in a breakout room?
I guess.
On the side note, who is Elizabeth?
Beth is a graduate of the first cohort. She wanted to sit in on a class and maybe TAing in cohort 4. So she wanted to join in and see how class was going.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Let's see. open.
I could have said stranger danger. What do you mean, Elizabeth? But in this case, it's all good. Okay. Okay. So we are going to keep trucking here with our Sequelize setup. So I'm actually going to open my Sequelize from yesterday, just so I have that code to reference. You don't have to. If you want to do it from scratch and just follow along with me, that's fine. But I'm going to open up my VS Code and let you
Sorry.
and let you in on my dirty little secret. I don't know how to set up Sequelize from scratch. I always go to the last project that I did and use that to be my basis for my next project. So I don't always know how to do this from scratch, if that makes you guys feel any better. But
Perfect,
I
Matt.
do know I've gotten it working somewhere, so I use that as my reference. So with that said, what we are going to do is I'm going to move this off screen and going to pretend like I'm not looking at yesterday's code in order to get today's code working. So what I'm going to do is in my backend, I'm going to create a new folder called DB. Once I've created my DB, I'm going to create a new file called db.js. And remember, the db.js is all about connecting to the database and making sure our models are in sync. What step do we need to do before we connect to the database, though?
Make a database.
We need to make a database. So we're going to go to Beekeeper Studio. I'm going to double click on default database over here and ignore anything that comes up. All I need to do is get to a query. If you hit the little plus icon, that will get you to a new blank query. And I'm going to create my database with a highly unique name of blog. And once I click on run here, I should get not only a 0 rows affected, no results, but if I click this little refresh up here and click on my dropdown, make a liar out of me, click on my dropdown, now I get my blog showing up. Now my blog doesn't have any tables, that's okay. I'm going to click into it and it's going to pull everything up here. Once I have this created, I'm just going to minimize it. We're going to come back to Beekeeper. So create database blog, run selection. We are then going to click our little refresh icon up here. Once we click the refresh, we can click in our drop down. We should see our databases, one of which should say blog. We're going to click into it. And as long as you can click into it in this drop down, you're good to go. Everyone a minute on that. And then we can try and get our connection working in our db.js.
Don't kill me. Hit the check box to add a new one, create database blog. What was the step after that?
Highlight it and hit run selection or just hit run. And once you've done that, now hit the refresh up here. And once you've hit the refresh up here, you can click your drop down and change to blog.
And then I need your help one more time. When you created that file DB, how did you do that? Because when I do it, it gives me like 3 lines on the side versus like a drop down. I think I'm doing it wrong.
I hit the little new file icon here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just typed in db.js. And
Yeah.
once you put in the .js, that little line icon will change to the JS icon.
Okay.
Do you need help with that?
Yeah, probably 1 second. Let me try. Just see. Mm. 1 second.
Okay, so we're gonna keep trucking here unless anyone has questions in Beekeeper about creating the database and getting it open. Okay, so before we forget, in our server.js, we are going to say const db equals require our db folder db.js. Right? Because when we create our new file, we need to actually run it somewhere. So we're essentially importing it here by requiring it in, so that when we start server.js, it knows to go run everything in db.js. Okay, so once we're in db.js, now we get to connect to the database. So we know we're going to be using Sequelize, so let's require that in. Once we required it in, we need to do a const db, and that is going to equal a new Sequelize instance. And where are we connecting to? We're connecting to a Postgres database with our username. Do not type hackupstate, type your username. Localhost, we're still on 5432, but now we are connecting into the blog database. And once we have done that, now we need to try and test that connection. So we're going to say const connect to DB equals an async function. And we are going to try and to authenticate with the database. And if we have, we can console.log connected successfully. And once we have connected, we can sync in our models. We haven't created any yet, but still good to sync. And when there are any errors thrown, go ahead and console error out the error and also say panic DB problems. Once we have done that, now that we have written out our function to test everything, we are also going to connect to the DB. And once we have connected, the last thing we need to do is export out our database so that we can use it in other files. And if all goes well, we have a connected successfully right here in our terminal, and you are all caught up.
Are we gonna change the name to that back end to Sequelize?
No, because we're only using Sequelize in this project, we're not using any other variant of it. We're not going to rename it to Sequelize.
Oh, okay.
We just renamed the last one to Sequelize so we could differentiate between the PG version and the version that was using Sequelize. But this project will only be using Sequelize, so we don't need to put it in the name.
Oh, from the beginning. And so, for future reference, if we were creating, this is basically all the steps from what we did from where we started to here.
If you wanted to follow all of these steps for your capstone, you would be thinking in the right direction.
So we can go back and add all of this to if we have something already.
It depends, right? If whatever you have is not in React already, what you will need to do is create a new React app and then move it into your React app component by component. If you have a backend, then you could add in Sequelize. If you don't have a backend set up yet, you could go through and npm init and create your folder and do all of that good stuff.
Okay. I need to. Down.
Once you do get it working, make sure you go back through, make sure you understand syntax. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Hey, so I'm at the point where I copied the db.js just to catch up.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure I gotta edit something in Postgres.
Did you
I think my
create your
username.
database yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so the only line you're probably missing is in server.js, this require DB. If you have that and you look in your terminal, you should see down here connected successfully, selecting 1+1 as result.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Okay.
Can I share my screen real quick?
Yep.
Is my screen sharing?
Mm-mm.
What the heck? I don't know what happened. One second. Okay.
There you go. Okay, so you've got your database created.
Pretty sure I gotta edit this. from
Yeah,
my-
change hack upstate to Chad Stickerson. And then save. I was gonna say, I thought there was an S in your name. And then
Yeah.
in server.js, you need to add that const db equals require db.js.
Okay.
You feel free to look at mine. It's on line 8 of mine.
Yeah.
And then you should be all caught up after that.
Never mind my hand, Max. I found I got a typo.
Okay. And you're good to go.
Yeah.
Scotty, go ahead.
Alrighty, I crashed. 1 second. Um,
your you forgot to create a folder called DB.
Okay, so that was what I was having trouble with. So
So just click in there, click in and hover over blog backend. Oh, just don't right click, just left click. Yeah, okay. Now there's a new folder icon.
this one.
Yep. Create
Duh.
db.js. I'm sorry, just DB. My bad.
Okay, and then
You got
can I
it.
move that in there?
You sure can. And then click in your terminal and hit Control C. Oh, you're caught up. You're good. You got
Okay.
connected successfully, so you're all caught up.
Okay, thank you.
6 votes in. 8 was our magic number before. Can I help anyone else or remind someone to vote? Doug, go ahead.
I just had a question about where we are requiring PG, and in the non-sequelized version, we actually require it into our file. Here, I don't see it anywhere. Is it one of the other things?
Sequelize requires PG itself. And so that is why we install it, even though we don't actually use the require line in there. It's because Sequelize is pulling it in under the hood of Sequelize itself.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Oh, we got 9 votes in. So I know this is infuriating because you're like, oh my God, he's going a million miles an hour. But look at how many of you guys are actually staying up. I think that that is a major win. Christy may have diabetes after the end of all of this, but she's going to have her ice pops. All right, we good to roll forward? Okay.
Remember this year.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now we're in a pretty good spot, but where we're going to start is user authentication, which is kind of a fun one for me. So in order to start with user authentication, can anyone guess what our first model is going to be?
User.
Ooh, good guess. I like the way you think, Larry. User.js.
Can you explain to me what a model is again? Sorry.
A model is essentially modeling out what the table will look like in the database. So a model is what Sequelize uses in order to get the, in order to understand what the database looks like, we need to tell it what the model is of that table in the database. So what we're going to do to set up our model, in order to get models working, I created user.js. I made sure it was in my DB folder, right? So I didn't create it just out here. I created user in my database, and then I need to import it. So what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to say const user equals require the user file, but also give it access to the database. And then once we have done that, down here, go ahead and export out the user so that we can use it in other parts of the app. Now, in our user.js, we need to pull in the data types from Sequelize so we can tell it, hey, these columns should have these data types. I am then going to say, hey, my module.exports, because we need to export this so we have access to it in other parts of our app. It's going to get access to the database. And when it does, it is going to return a new definition of a model. And that table is going to be called user. And as with most, if not all of our models, it's going to have an ID that has a type of a data types.integer. It has a primary key. And finally, it is going to auto increment for us. Now that we've got our ID out of the way, we've got to think about what other columns do we want on our user. Well, I think the obvious one is a username, and that is going to be a data type of a string. In addition to our username, what else do we need?
Password?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
And that is also going to be a data type of a string. And believe it or not, that is all we need to get started. So I'm going to save that. And notice there was some stuff down in my terminal that ran. And if we look closely, there's a create table if not exists users. Well, hold on. Does that mean that when we go to our beekeeper and we refresh our entities right here? Well, look at that. There's a users table. And if we double click on it, oh, there's my username. There's my password. Oh, son of a little SQL writer. Sequelize just created the table for me. How did it do that? Well, we told it, go use the user model up here and sync whatever is in the user model with whatever's in the database. Handy. So what you should have at this point, what we're polling for is not only do you have your user all written out, you've got your const user require in your db.js. Down here, you have also exported out your user right here. And finally, you can go to your beekeeper. You can hover over the little entities here and click refresh, and you should see your users table. If you double click on it, you can see your username and your password field. And if you can see your username and your password, you are all caught up.
What if you don't?
Do you think you're all caught up?
No,
Okay, well then get to the caught up point, and then if you don't, let me know.
okay.
Max, I'm a little confused about how to check beekeeper.
Okay, do you have beekeeper open?
Yes,
Do you have blog in the top left?
yes,
Did you hover over entities and get a little refresh icon that you clicked on?
that was the problem. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know why you could possibly confuse. It's not like there's 1, 2, 3, and I think 4 different refresh buttons in the interface.
Mine doesn't have public users like yours does.
Okay. And you think you're caught up?
I think I am now.
Did you get your, in your db.js, did you add in your require?
I did not.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget to also add it down here in module.exports.
So, yeah, that's what I was noticing. So for module.exports, everything that we create, all the things that we create, so the DB and the user, so anything that we create in the DB goes, we have to name it down in the module.exports.
Yeah, because basically what we do is we create the model and export it to our db.js where we import it. Then we sync it into the database and make sure it has access to the whole database. And then we export it again so that we can import everything from that one DB file.
So I just added the required, and now it's saying nodemon app crash.
Okay, so scroll up a little bit and see why it's saying it crashed.
It has the module export, and then there's a little arrow under user.
Go ahead and share screen.
Was I supposed to use a small, maybe I was, okay.
Is your user file, you know, it is. You.
It had, but was I supposed to use a small U? No.
Go to your user.js. You forgot a comma after line 10. Or on line 10 at the end of line 10.
This, okay.
Yep. Comma. Save. Okay, go to your DB.js. Click in your terminal, scroll down to the bottom. Are you at the bottom? No, you're not. Other direction, go all the way down to the bottom. Oh, and now you're all caught up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
That was just an old error, but you scrolled up to see the error and didn't see that it had fixed itself.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Now, wait a
And then
minute.
share.
Zach next, and then Wayne, I can come to you.
So okay. All right.
Go to
So my
Beekeeper,
Yeah.
hover over the entities area,
Uh-huh.
and then click the refresh button on that.
Got it. Got
And
it.
then you should have your users table. So Zach, I'm guessing your question is, where are your other two columns? Okay, so what happened here, if we go over, you've got everything set up here, but you saved at well, this is mine, not yours. Let me look at your user.js. So what happens is everything's fine here, but at some point you saved and it thought, oh, you're good to go. Like, I'll go create that table for you. But you weren't done syncing in the rest of you weren't done creating the rest of the fields. So the way we fix this is if you go to db.js and in the sync command in those parameters, I'm sorry, in sync, db.sync on line 10. Between those parameters, you're going to put curly braces and you're going to say force : true. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to delete all of the data that's in the table and overwrite it with the data, the columns that are in your model. So if you save that, okay, now go back to Beekeeper and refresh. Oh, there you go. You're all caught up. So before you go, make sure that you remove the force true, because that force true, every time your server restarts, it is going to delete everything in the table and recreate it. And that's not what you want to do, right? Because you're going to be like, well, I did my insert. Where did my data go? The force true is going to overwrite the data in the database. I'm glad that question came up, though. I was hoping that it would for someone. Nicole, go ahead.
I don't have the right stuff in my Beekeeper studio, but I have the right folder.
Okay, did you create? You created a table called blog. You were supposed to create a database called blog.
No, I did. I think.
Well, I saw the command you ran. You ran create table blog. We're supposed to create a database called blog.
Okay. So just write database out right here.
Yep. And remove the parentheses.
It's okay if I'm writing in the one from the day before. I don't need to make a new one.
Well, that is literally what you are doing. You are creating a new one. Okay, now if you hit the refresh button in the left side, right next to the word chat, and click in that drop down, you should see that you've got a blog database now. So now you can go through the steps of getting SQLized connected to the blog database in the backend.
Okay.
Okay, we got 5 votes in. Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne, go ahead. So you've got your users, you got your username and your password. So to me, that says you're all caught up. Did you have a question?
I was just checking if I was all caught up. 'Cause
Oh, you
I
just
had
wanted to show off.
No, I had an error and I fixed it myself. I'm like, yeah, goddamn, yeah. So okay.
Cool, good work. Chaz, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why my server keeps crashing.
Go ahead, share your screen. Let's take a look at the error. Okay, so scroll up. A module not found usually means that you didn't run an npm install. So if you or you're importing it wrong, I believe your user.js is supposed to be in the DB folder. So just click and drag that into DB. Yep. And move. And you're all caught up.
Okay. Wow.
So module not found usually is either you didn't npm install it or you're trying to require a file that isn't in the path that you told it will be in.
Okay.
But if you want to confirm you're caught up, you can go into Beekeeper and look at your user table and you should see everything in there. So double click on default database. Change your username in the top left down to blog, and then double click on users. Good to go.
Okay.
Huh. Go ahead, Nicole. So go to your db.js. Okay. Click in your terminal and hit Control-C. And then restart it. I think that was hanging over from when you didn't have the blog created, the blog database created. So if you just hit up enter to restart it. Okay, so you've got all of that caught up. Now in your db.js, make sure that you make the updates to have your const require user and update your module.exports like I do in mine.
Thank you.
Yep. You're close. Once you get that user imported, you should be fully caught up to where we're at. So good work. Wasn't looking in that poll crept up that 6 people caught up. Any questions before we go on break?
Random, you probably already said this. Is there supposed to be any folders in the front end? Because if not, can I just
Nope.
minimize them? Not on them?
Yes, have not touched front end at all.
Okay.
Okay, we got 8 votes in, so I say we go on break a whole 3 minutes early, and we'll see you guys at 7:20. I'll stick around for 2 minutes though, in case any questions pop up. See you at 7:20. Any questions pop up during the break? How are we feeling so far on our full stack setup? Okay, let's just dive right back in. So what would happen if we stored a username and password in the database directly? Can anyone think of a concern of doing that?
Authentication, maybe. I don't know.
Authentication, what about it? What problem would we run into with that?
People having access to people's names and usernames.
Usernames are more importantly passwords, right? So if someone gets access to our database and we're storing their password, well, literally someone could get into our database and would have everyone's password for every user on our site. So the way we solve for that is a one-way encryption technique called hashing, where what happens is you type in your password, let's call it cat123. And when you type in cat123, a one-way algorithm runs to encrypt your password to what looks like a random string of characters. And there is no way to take that random string of characters and convert it back to cat123. Well, if that's the case, what problem would we run into?
If they forgot their password?
Even worse, when they try to sign in and they say, hey, my password is cat123. Well, how do we know? It's just a random string of letters. There's no way to convert it back. The way hashing works is the only way to know if their password matches the password that we have on file is to hash the password again. And when we hash the password again, that password will come out the same exact output from the hashing algorithm as the first time we hashed it. So in other words, we create their account, we take cat123, we pass it into the hashing algorithm, and it outputs XYZ. Okay, now there is no way to turn XYZ back into cat123. But if we put anything else in the hashing algorithm, it is not going to output XYZ. But if we rehash their password when they try to sign in again and they type in cat123, we take cat123, get the hashing output of XYZ, and compare the XYZ to the hash that's in the database. And if the two line up, that must mean they typed in the right password. That's very conceptual. I get that you may not see that directly. So what we're going to do is, go ahead, Zach.
I don't know if you know the answer to this or if it's like, I don't know, something you'd know or even like a valid question, but like, so if every time you type it in, it comes out the same way, then it's not random. Like, I know it seems random, but
correct. It's not actually random. Yes.
So couldn't you make like a key based off of that then? Or is it, because it's like assigning a value to that password, right?
Yes, but there's no way to take that value and reverse it back to the original password. Right, so this is when Facebook, and this is exactly why, to Larry, your point, when you say, hey, I forgot my Facebook password, you don't go through your hints and then go, oh, okay, well, your password was actually ABC123. The only thing that they can do is reset your password to something new, because Facebook is storing the hashed password, the encrypted password, and there's no way for them to unencrypt that password. The only way that they are able to verify that your password is what you say it is by hashing the password again and comparing the output of both hashes. And if those hashes are exactly the same, that means the password you create when you created your account must be the same password that you're trying to log in with now.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Zach? Not really. Okay.
I don't know. It's like I said, I don't know if it's really a question we can answer without getting like super in depth about how encryption works.
Gotcha.
It's just initially like, just from the brief description you gave, just a couple issues, potential issues that pop into my head. Like, how do you know you don't have, like, obviously the way it encrypts it, like it seems random, but if it's not like a set, like,
it's not actually random. What it is it's an algorithm that seems like it's outputting random text, but we know it's not random text because every time we put in the same input, we always get the same output. And so that is, by definition, not random.
Right.
But when we look at the output of hash, you'll look at it and be like, oh, that's definitely random. And then we'll use that hash and figure out how it all lines up.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it'd be possible theoretically to have like two passwords have the same output, since it's like,
and that's on the encryption algorithm to make sure that those they call it a collision, to make sure those collisions don't happen. Doug, go ahead.
I think I'm furthering Zach's line of questions. But if someone got their hands on the algorithm, could they then reverse engineer the passwords?
No, and we know that's not the case because bcrypt, which is the password algorithm that we are going to be using, is completely open source. So you can actually go into the source code and see how they generate it. However, that is crossing the lines of programming and getting into cryptography. And cryptography is a whole level of mathematics and computer science that is beyond me. So I can say that there are multiple password hashing algorithms, and some of them have been broken to the point, like MD5 was one of the earliest ones, and they figured out a vulnerability in it so that they could reverse the hash. And so MD5 is one of the least secure password hashing algorithms because someone created an algorithm to reverse the algorithm and actually get the input from the output. That is not supposed to be able to happen. And so bcrypt is one of the newer algorithms that it has not been cracked at this point. So no one has been able to take, even though they know how the hash gets generated, no one has figured out how to reverse the hash to make sure you can't get the input out of the output.
But theoretically, it could be done.
Theoretically, it could be done, and if we want to get out of the scope of class, quantum computing is a way that makes people scared around the speed that it could take to solve a hashing algorithm. But right now, bcrypt is one of the newer algorithms. I won't say the newest, but one of the newer algorithms. It is pretty widely used, and as far as we know, no one has cracked it yet. And when they do crack it, it is a very big deal in the industry. Normally, it takes a solid at least 10 years to crack a hashing algorithm. And so far, we are more than one step ahead of that. So normally when a hashing algorithm gets cracked, it is, like I said, at least 10 years old.
Thank you.
With all of that said, we're going to dive in. Oh, go ahead.
So when someone's Facebook gets hacked, that means that somebody cracked what you just said?
Not necessarily. So Facebook's database could get hacked that has all of our hashed passwords in it. But because right now, depending on what algorithm they're using, there's no way to reverse the hash. There would be no way for the hackers who got their hands on that database to know what our actual passwords were. However,
They
when
can
that,
just get in.
no, they wouldn't even be able to get in.
I mean,
I
when
don't think
people
they,
books get,
I don't,
like
I don't
people are
think
get inside.
they get that.
Okay, hold on. Let's hold all of these questions. Let's
Okay.
get our code working. And then if you have any questions, I'll be sure to either save time at the end of class tonight or the beginning of class tomorrow to try and answer your hashing questions. But I think
Okay.
when you see it in practice, it will be a little bit easier to understand.
Okay.
I will not be in class tomorrow, but
Oh,
Either.
we'll kick off Monday with a nice encryption question Q&A session. Trust me, I will not be in class tomorrow either. All right, so what we're gonna do is let's take a step back and think about this from our blog, the blog application that we're creating. So I am starting my screen share. I am in server.js, and we know that this code runs every time our server gets started, right? But let's think about who do we want to be able to create an account? To get started, we don't want anyone to be able to create an account other than ourselves. And the reasoning behind that is you need an account to create a post. Well, to create a post, we don't want anyone to be able to create an account and then create a post. We want to be the only ones who can create a post for our blog. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it up to say, hey, go check the users table and see if a user has been created yet. If the user has not been created yet, we are then going to create a user. But if a user already exists, we're just going to assume that we're going to use them and that the password's already been created. So to get started here, we're at the bottom of our server.js. We are going to say const users equals user dot find. And we actually need to do that in an async function. So we're going to say const create first user is an async function. And we're going to do our const users in here. And we need to wait for our user. But as we're referencing user, we need to import that in. So up here, up at the top, where we require our DB, we're also going to pull in our user. And then we're going to come down here, console.log all of our users. And finally, we need to call the create first user. And it says user.find is not a function because it's supposed to be find all. So notice what we have here is an empty array. That's saying it didn't find any users in our database. Well, how do we know that? If we go to Beekeeper and we look in the users table, ain't no one in here. So what we are going to do is we are going to say if users.length equals 0, that means no user is created in the database. We want to actually go create one. So what we're going to do is we're going to say user.create. And what are we sending in? We're going to send in a username. Mine's going to be very creative. And the password. But the password we want to encrypt. So in order to do that, we're going to use a package called bcrypt. So if I go to npm.js and do a search for bcrypt, bcrypt is going to come up and say bcrypt is a library to help you hash passwords. It has nearly 1 million downloads this week alone. And down here, it's going to show you, hey, we can install bcrypt. And then when we use it, what we are going to do is say bcrypt hash. And what that hash is going to do is output the password for us. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to, in our terminal, again, this is all backend, we're going to hit Control-C to stop it. We're going to npm I bcrypt. Once we've got bcrypt in, we're going to npm run start again. now that we've got our start done, what we're going to do is up here, we need to const our bcrypt, which is being required in from our bcrypt. Then we come down here and we say user create username max, the password, and my password is going to is going to bcrypt dot hash sync synchronously, right? We want to wait for it. And my password is going to be super secret. So I save all of that. I go over to my beekeeper and I do a search, and look what came in here. Username max, password null. Well, at some point, I must have saved my file and it created my user without me sending in a password. Well, that's going to cause problems, right? Because I wanted it to have my password in it. So what I can do is go to my beekeeper, right-click on this row and hit delete row. Then I have this sneaky apply button down here. It hasn't actually deleted my row yet. It has just flagged it for deletion. So I'm going to hit apply here. Now my table is empty again. So I go back to my server. I hit Control C to stop it. And I hit up enter to start it. And now it says data and salt arguments required. So what happened is I passed in my super secret. I also need to tell it I am going to salt 10 times. Salt is not a concept that we're going to get into right off the bat. It's an encryption thing. I'll go back to covering that early next week. So now we bcrypt hash sync super secret. So I go to my beekeeper, I hit this little search icon or the refresh down here, either one is fine. And look what popped in here. My username and what looks to be a random string of characters. Now that may not make a ton of sense now. We haven't gotten into the login or testing any of this, but we're going to stop here to poll. So what you should have done is you npm installed bcrypt. You then const bcrypt in. Then we did this function called create first user. Create first user went to the database to see if a user existed. If the user's length is 0, that means we haven't created a user yet. So then we use the user model again, and we created a new user with a username of Max and a password that is a hashed or encrypted password using bcrypt, and that password is storing super secret. Then we have to put a salting round in here. For now, we're just going to use 10 by default. Don't worry, we'll get to salting later.
So Max,
Finally, yep,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
If we use super secret and salt 10 times, it's still going to give us something different than your hash?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Then we are going to go into Beekeeper Studio and to make sure that the password in here is showing up. If it is saying null, what you want to do is right click and hit delete row, hit apply down here, and finally come back to your server, hit Control C, up, enter. And now when you go back into Beekeeper and refresh, you should see your password in here. Stopping, polling, awaiting questions.
Can you go over the beekeeper part again?
Yeah, so in Beekeeper, if you hit the little refresh icon down here, or double click on users, you should be able to see your password in this row. If it says null, that means that your server rebooted and created the user before we had the password hashing set up. So what we're going to do is right click on this row and hit delete row. We then hit apply. We then go back into VS Code, hit Control C to stop our server and up enter to restart it. That's going to make this create first user rerun. Realize that there aren't any databases in the database, create a new user for us. Then when we go back into Beekeeper and hit refresh, we should see our password in there. If you do not see the hash password at that point, you probably need help. I'm going to go to Stephanie. Christine, give you a minute to try, figure out. If you can't, I'll come back to you. Go ahead,
Okay.
Stephanie.
I finished catching up by typing, but when I did the thing here in terminal, it gave me this.
Okay, so
And
cannot
my
read
beekeeper
properties
is in-
undefined of null. So that means that you are pulling in the user properly from the DB, but let's open db.js and make sure you're exporting it properly as well. Aha, you're using it here, but you are not doing a comma export down. Oh, I'm sorry, not that spot. You import it up here, but you didn't export it so that we can use it right out of the database. And now I like everything that looks like it's in your terminal. So let's go back to Beekeeper and hit the little search. Boo. Okay, go hit the refresh in the bottom right. I think it does the same. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to scroll over your screen there. Hit the refresh in the bottom right and see if that, yeah, no, still not working. Okay, so let's go back to your server.js. And oh, you are missing a await in front of the user.findAll. Whenever we do on 20, you need an await there. Whenever we do a database query, it is always going to be asynchronous. So we always need to await whenever we do anything in the database.
Okay.
So now go back to your Beekeeper and refresh, and you're good to go.
Nice. Thank you.
No problem. Chaz, you're up next. Okay, so you did your npm I decrypt, but you didn't stop the server first. So you can't install a new package while the server is still running. So Control C first, and now do your npm I decrypt. And now when you restart the server, once you finish the create first user, that should have the problem fixed.
Okay, you said edit the server.js, right?
Yep. Yeah, you've got a little bit more work before your create
Oh,
first
yeah.
user is working. Once you have that done, do your npm run start in the terminal, and you should be good to go.
Okay.
Nicole, you're up. Scroll down in your terminal. Other way, all the way down to the bottom. Hold on, I have to resize my window. Okay, your server's not running. So you need to npm run start to get that running. Okay, all of that looks good. So now go to Beekeeper. And oh, okay. Hit not now for the download. Oh, there you go. You're caught up. You're good. Scotty, go ahead.
Are we using your username and password for example purposes?
Doesn't matter. You can
Okay.
use your own. Okay, you've got an unexpected token parenthesis, which means that you're trying to close something out that is not completely done. So scroll over on your line 25. Nope, that's not the problem. Scroll all the way down to the bottom in your terminal for me. And scroll up just a tiny little bit. Unexpected token, go up a little bit more. Okay, server line 26. You didn't save. Scroll down in your terminal. npm run start. Scroll up. Still doesn't like user find all is not a function. Okay, so now you need to go to your db.js and make sure that in your module.exports, you're exporting the user so that we can import it elsewhere. So in line 19, where it says db, in addition to exporting the db, comma, you also want to export the user. With a capital U. Okay, and save. And then scroll down in your terminal. And make sure you save your server as well. Oh, you need a closing parenthesis on 26. Parenthesis, not semicolon. Okay, save. Scroll down to the bottom in your terminal. Oh, scroll up a little bit more. Scroll up in your server.js. You shouldn't delete all of line 10. You imported the wrong user. So instead of importing directly from the file, you can take that whole line out. Instead, we want to pull everything through the database file. So just delete that. And then on line 9 after DB, do a comma, the first DB in the curly braces, comma user. Capital U, save. Scroll down in your terminal to the bottom. Now you're all caught up. So go to Beekeeper. And double click on users. And there you are. Wayne, go ahead. Scotty, just so you know, you were muted that whole time. So if you thought I was talking over you, it was...
I know, no, it's funny because I literally went to go like mute myself back and realized that I was muted. So it's okay.
I didn't want you to think I was being like a complete dick when I was helping you and you were saying something.
Nope, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't see any problems. So go to your Beekeeper.
I just stopped it. I'm gonna start it again.
Okay, I still don't see any problem. So beekeeper and then refresh. Okay, so there is a legit problem. Oh, you're in the blog database. Oh, you're in supposed to be in the blog database. Wow, Max. Okay, go to your server JS. And you've got a users.lang. I don't know what a users.lang is. Line 21. Okay, go back to your beekeeper. Refresh. There you are.
Oh crap! Moving too fast. All right.
Christy, you're up.
Okay, I've just followed along with everybody, so I really want to know what the problem is.
Well, you're not running your server in your terminal.
I'm not.
Nope. Whenever we see that % sign, that means it's expecting a new command. So after you installed bcrypt, you didn't run npm run start. And you're not clicked into, yeah. Caught up? No errors? Go to your beekeeper. Refresh or double click, whatever, doesn't matter. Same thing. Good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Larry, you're up.
Right, so desktop 2. Nothing showing up in beekeeper.
Because you are using users. Oh, nope. Scroll back down. You're using users right here, but you're referencing user right here. So you want to say users is what you're finding everything of. And then finally, you are not, you're creating a function called create first user, but you're not calling it down here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Seven votes in, would love to get to 9. Eight votes in, would still love to get to 9.
I'm 9.
Okay. 9 votes in. We've
Wait,
gotten
wait,
to
wait.
9.
Wait 1 second.
Yep.
It's like I'm missing one more thing.
Share your screen. You have the quote on the wrong side of the comma in line 24.
Oh shit.
Oh, now you've got, that looks like a SQL error. Scroll up
On the terminal or
in the terminal. Failing row contains. No, go to your user.js for me. You're missing the auto increment true on between 7 and 8. Above that. Yep. Capital I. save, scroll down to the bottom of your terminal. You might need to Control C to stop it and then start it over again. Still an error, scroll up. Filling constraints, no. Type, data types, integer, primary key, auto increment, true. Go to your beekeeper. Right click on the users table over on the left. And oh, we can't do that. Okay, go to hit the plus to open a new query. I'm sorry, there are 40. Yeah, that one. And say drop table users semicolon.
Is that capitals?
Doesn't matter.
Space users?
Yep. Semicolon run. Oh no. The run.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah,
delete the
that's
word.
fine.
The run
Yeah.
button. Yep. Okay. Go back to your back end. Hit Control C in the terminal. Then start it up again. So your tables got out of sync, and the way that I showed Zach how to fix that was we did a forced true. Oh, son of a.
Still.
All right, I'm requesting remote control here. Oh, hit open system preferences. Hit the lock in the bottom left. And just check off Zoom. And now I should be able to. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Relation users does not exist. So that means that you missed. No. What do you mean relation users does not exist? Define ID, primary key, username, password, dbjs, connect to blog, require a user, sync it in, connect to DB, export user, server.js, pulls in, database, and user. And then you're using the proper one there. From users as user. Why is your table name users run relation users does not exist? Okay, you've got me really stumped. Let's try this. Oh, come on. Why is your sync not running? For some reason, it's not creating your user table, even though try this. Okay, so the problem, this was a kind of a weird one, was that because you didn't have your auto increment in there for the first time, this sync wasn't done running before the server booted up and tried to create the user. So basically the sync didn't have the time to create the table before you told the user to get created. It was just a weird edge case. But now that you're in there, now you should be able to see.
I'm gonna act like I understand what you mean by that, but
It's okay.
really,
It was
essentially just saying that everything was out of order. Like,
yeah,
I should've
basically.
done
Yep, that
first.
is exactly what I'm saying. So you should be good now and all caught up.
Okay.
Sorry, that was that when it takes me that long to fix it, it's a legit problem.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
no problem. All right, so let's round this out here. Let's cross the finish line. We created our user. Now what's the next logical step?
Trying to find a way to authenticate them.
Authenticate. We got to let them log in. So we're going to do a server.post and we're going to say login. And login is going to do an async rec and res. And when we log in, what we are going to do is we are going to const find the user by going to the user table and finding one where their username is the rec.body.username. Spelled completely wrong. There we go. And because it's a find, we have to do an await. And let me just confirm, it's been a hot minute since I've used equalize. Get started. Yeah. Create, select. And all. Use. And all. One keyword. I forgot. Where the username is rec.body.username. And if we didn't find a user, res.send error username not found. Else console.log the user.password and res.send a message saying maybe. So we're going to go to everyone's favorite tool to test this, Postman. And in Postman, we are going to do a new post to our HTTP localhost 3001/login. We are going to go to our body and set it to raw, and application type is JSON. Again, body, raw, JSON. And we're going to say our username that we're sending in is going to be Joe. So I hit send here and I get username not found. And I change my Joe to Max and I get maybe. Hold on. What are the chances I can fit all of this on the screen? Slim to none. make you go away? I can't.
Can you go over the steps for Postman?
Yep.
I just got to that part.
Open Postman, open a new tab, set your type to post, set your URL to localhost 3001/login. Click on the body, set it to raw, change your text to JSON, then type in your username and whatever username you created in your create step. I'm going to attempt to annotate this on my screen so you can see everything. Post, URL, body, raw,
Thank you.
JSON, username. Haven't touched password yet. That's why we got an maybe. We haven't validated their password. All we're doing right now is just seeing if the username exists.
How did you get that bottom part to show? Because mine just says could not send request.
That's not good.
Uh-oh. Let me share.
Make sure you're. Go ahead.
All right.
You need the http:// in the beginning of your localhost. Is your backend server running?
No,
Ooh.
what happened?
Scroll up in your terminal there. Username has invalid undefined value. So that means your rec.body.username went wrong somewhere. So let's go back to Postman. Everything looks right there. Go back to your server. Maybe something just made the server cranky. Click in the terminal and hit Control-C. And up enter to restart it. And then go back to your Postman and hit send. There you go.
Cool. Thank you.
It's 8:13. Even our server gets allowed to get cranky.
Can you show your Postgres again, please? Or Postman?
We are doing an HTTP request, Chaz, and it's going to be the type post. So it is a post. That is our URL. We click body. We click raw. We click JSON. We enter this in here. We hit the send button over there. Oh, that's a terrible arrow. And then we should get our message back here.
Well, I realized that my Postman is different because I'm using the web one. So like when you go to body, raw isn't right there, but you gotta like click this little drop down menu to get raw. It's easier to show you than explain it.
No, I know what you're saying. As long as you have it set to raw, though, you should be okay.
So body raw.
What if you click send and nothing comes up?
Check your backend terminal for errors.
Can I share my screen?
Go for it. Okay, unexpected token on, I don't know what line it is, but it's underlined in 18. So instead of console.error, that should just say error.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, no. Oh, you need /login in your post URL. Yeah. And then send. There you go. Go ahead, Zach.
I'm not sure what my issue is. I fixed a typo here.
Username has undefined value. Okay, this may be the same
When
thing.
I go to Postman, hit send, it just says could not send request.
Yeah, I think you ran into the same thing Stephanie ran into. Just go to your backend terminal and hit Control-C.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if I had my volume on.
You're fine. Just hit Control-C in terminal. I think you have the same thing that Stephanie ran into, and then up enter, and now go try it in Postman.
Unless I'm
No,
doing-
I know what your problem is. You missed the step to set text to JSON.
Oh, okay.
And now you're going to have to go reboot your server again. It got cranky because you didn't send it JSON, and it was like, don't know what this is, and crap the bed.
Okay. Cool.
There you go.
Thank you.
Larry, go ahead. Okay, we've all got the same problem here. So if you get username has undefined value, click in your terminal and hit Control-C to stop the server. Then go to your Postman and make sure your Postman is set to JSON, which you did. And then in that body area, the right underneath it, yep, do a curly brace, quote, username, and then, yep, you got it, colon, quote, and then whatever username you put in. Now go back to your terminal, your server terminal, and make sure you restarted it. So npm run start or up enter probably. And then back to Postman and send. So if you send something in Postman and the server crashed, it's gonna cause problems down the road. So sometimes you have to stop the server, fix the problem, and then restart the server.
Thank you.
No problem. Nicole, you're up next.
I feel like that might have been my same problem, but I'm gonna just show my skimmer screen.
Okay, so go to your server. Click in the terminal and hit Control-C. Up enter. And then go back to Postman and hit send. You have http://:. You still have http://:.
What is it supposed to be?
http://. There you go.
Thank you.
Chaz, you're up.
Yeah, for some reason I can't send the request.
I wonder if the
Okay.
web version won't work with localhost.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Because oh, you've got localhost period 3001. It needs to be colon 3001. Oh, that's a comma.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's a semicolon. We got there. Go ahead and send. Booyah. No one says booyah anymore. It's that late in the night. Okay, we're going to finish this out because we're really close. I know it doesn't feel it, but we are going to get our password working. So, I'm going to share my screen. All right. So we've made it all the way here. And notice what happened when we console.logged out the user.password. It actually printed our hash down here. That hash is coming back from our database because it did find the user based off of the request body username. So what we are going to do is we are going to say const matching password equals bcrypt dot compare, and the two things we're going to compare is the rec.body.password to the user.password. This is what's coming in from the request. This is what's coming in from the database. From there, we can say if they have a matching password, we can res.send something like success true message open sesame. There's no way I spelled sesame right, is there? No. Oh no, I did. S-E-S. No, I didn't. Open sesame. Else res.send another error, no go passwords, no match. And the last thing that I need to do that I forgot was this needs to say await because it's an asynchronous. So we come over to our Postman. We add a new field called password. And I say gibberish is my password. And I hit send. And I get no-go passwords, no match. And I do super secret as my password. And I get true open sesame. So if you are able to log in after you add your password to the post body request, try a password that isn't your password, try a password that is your password. And if all of that works, you are good to get out of here a whole 5 minutes early. Look at me. So again, top to bottom here, we find them in the database based off of their username. If we can't find them, they must not exist. Otherwise, we check to see if the password they sent in the request matches the password coming from the database query. And we use bcrypt to compare both of those hashes. If those hashes line up, their password must match. So we can send them, hey, you're in, you're logged in, congrats. Otherwise, we tell them well, we found your user, but ain't the right password, you're not allowed it.
Then we go over to Postman and what?
Then we go to Postman, and in the body, we add the password, and we try and send in a password that doesn't match and hit send and see what the output is. Then we put in a password that does match. And again, what it needs to match is our hashed password down here. And if it does, then you should get Open Sesame. Stephanie, go ahead.
So if you put like how before you had a different word in super secret, it's supposed to say something different in the bottom because mine says true for both.
That's not good. Go ahead, share your screen.
Yeah.
We're just gonna let anyone sign in, you know, just if you try a password, it's probably close enough.
So like I put this in there, I hit send,
Yep, let's look at your code.
and yeah.
Probably. Ooh.
Good night, everybody. I got it working.
Have a good one, Larry. Enjoy
Hey,
your whole
Larry.
2 extra minutes.
Right.
You've officially confused me. Oh, I've got an idea. Go to your beekeeper and refresh the table in the bottom right, or hit search. Nope. That theory goes out the window. Go back to your code. I give up. I'm coming in. Let's try this. Let's do a console log rec body password with our user dot password and just see what's coming in there. See if something looks off. So we go here, we hit send, we come over here. Gibberish is what we expected. Let's. I'm just gonna delete this and apply, and then we're gonna reboot your server, and we should get your thing back in here, and then we're gonna send. Haha. Bsync, bcrypt compare is a async function, so you need the await with it.
Oh. Yay.
Good to go.
Cool. Thank you.
Nicole, you're up. Okay, app crash. Let's figure out why. Scroll up in your error in your terminal. Okay, data and hash arguments are required. That's that one. Scroll up a little bit. Decrypt, compare, or wait. No. Where? Oh, maybe that's an old error. Go back to your Postman and hit send. There you go.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe I tried that a million times before I got to you.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to stop the server and restart it, and that's enough to shake the CRUD loose.
Okay.
Not the create, read, update, and delete, you know, the other kind of CRUD.
Oh,
Christy?
I just need to see Postman because I missed. I was in
We just added this password super
Right,
secret.
I can't. What is? I can't. Wait a minute. Let me move it over.
Oh, let me see.
So with this super secret.
Yep.
Okay.
And then if you type something in that isn't super secret, you should get a, authentication error or something like that.
Oh, so like if I spelled it wrong.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. And then if I spell it right and hit send, then it should fix. It should go to. Oh no, it did not.
Check your
Spelling. Just the spelling.
check to make sure your bcrypt compare has an await in front of it.
Oh no, it was the spelling.
Okay.
I spelled secret wrong, and then when I tried to correct it, I spelled it wrong again.
Oh, got it.
So I got true and open sesame.
You're good to go. One thing I forgot to mention that I will make sure to tell Larry. We are doing capstone check-ins on Monday. This time you do not have an option to schedule a one-on-one with me. The reasoning behind that is everyone will have to present your capstone at graduation. And so we are running this in a very strict project manager fashion. What have you accomplished since your last show and tell? What are you working on next in your capstone? What are you going to have done before your next check-in, which will be either the next Monday or 2 Mondays from now? We haven't decided if we're going to do capstone check-ins weekly or every other week. But we are turning up the heat because we are officially 3/4 of the way through the program at this point. So we will be doing more and more capstone check-ins, either weekly or every other week, starting on Monday. So all you need to do, be prepared to answer 3 questions. What have you done since the last time you showed us your capstone? What are you doing on your capstone in the next week? And what concerns do you have? Do you need any help? Are you roadblocked anywhere? Do you have any resources that you need? That kind of stuff. So we are doing that on Monday. We are also doing the front end for our blog app starting on Monday as well. The capstone check-in should only take 30 minutes to an hour.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Let me share. Oh, whenever somebody else stops.
Oh, mini burn.
Okay, I got the thing working. Good night, everybody.
He's like, I am out of here.
Night.
Good night.
So my only issue is,
Good night.
good night, guys. Did I not put something in here? Because when I do the wrong username, or well, when I do the right username, let's do that first. It comes like with this, but then so it's a wrong username. Send that error username not found. Shouldn't it say
No, because look, there's an if statement higher up. We don't even care what you send in as the password. If your username doesn't exist, we're not even going to check your password.
Okay, makes sense. Perfect. Okay, so if the username was right, then it would be like, hey, the password ain't right.
Correct.
Lovely. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
No problem. Have a good one. Doug, go ahead.
Okay, here is my screen. So if I put in the wrong username, it gives me username not found, which is good.
Yep.
But if I put in the correct username and the wrong password.
Okay, go to your code. You are missing the await before the bcrypt compare.
Oh,
I only was that quick on that because Stephanie had the same problem.
thank you.
No problem. Have an awesome night.
All right, good night.